Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Muscle Connection podcast. Today I have a very special guest on for the first time, Sue Bush. So she is the co-owner of Physique Development and actually the co-owner with her husband, Alex. Alex has been on the podcast a couple times. I'm sure you're familiar. You listened to that episode, but she's also a certified personal trainer, fitness nutritionist, and competitive physique athlete. Sue, looking forward to having you on today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm hoping to blow Alex's episodes out of the water
Hey, that's the goal, right? That's the standard we set, right?
over here.
Exactly. I love it. Any new guests I have on, I always just like to go over your background, how you got to where you're at today. So if you don't mind sharing that, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, a lot of it was that I grew up in sports. I wasn't very athletic though, so I think that is a gap that wasn't fully filled. I didn't have much body awareness. I had no knowledge around food. It was really just typical going, doing the sport, and then getting back into my daily life. And I really was in a place where I had a lot of petite friends. And so they were like 5'1", 5 foot, and I was like 5'5". And so it was something where I always felt much bigger than them because I physically was bigger than them. And I also was in sports like cheerleading and swimming, where you're wearing a one piece that you can see every part of your body while you're swimming. I also was a lifeguard for many years. But then with cheer, you're in those tight skirts. And then I also did competitive cheer. So I was in like a full spandex outfit. And with girls that are like 5 foot and less than 100 pounds wearing size 00, that was something that I really struggled with as far as how my physique looked. And especially getting into seeing the size of clothing that they were wearing. And at that time, I didn't have as much awareness as I do now, as far as each inch, you can add about 10 pounds and your physique be the weight that it needs to be. But for me, I was really focused on how can they fit into these 00s when I was wearing a size 6. And so I also got a chest a little bit sooner. So then it was just feeling like I was very out of place, that I was just much bigger than everyone around me. And when I went to college, I was really wanting to change that because I did feel very uncomfortable in my body. And like I mentioned, I was a lifeguard, and there was like 2 summers in a row for my junior and senior year of high school where I was like, just wait, next year I'm going to look so much better. And then never really did because I had no earthly idea what I was doing and had no plan to even get anything accomplished. I just wanted to look better. And so going into college, I was just like, I'm in a new place, new environment. I am going to change the person that I am. I felt that I had just a lot of people who knew me, grew up with me, and I had a hard time breaking out of that shell. And so when I did go to college, I actually started being more consistent with going to the gym. I still had no idea what to do within nutrition, but I saw a friend, or saw a girl on Instagram, and she went to my school. She was actually roommates with someone who I went to high school with, and she had started a fitness Instagram, and she was doing her thing and she looked great. And so I actually emailed her and was like, "Can I please work out with you?" And so we started to work out together. She taught me a lot throughout that time. And at the school that I went to, most schools I would say are probably very male dominated when it comes to the gym space. And with my school, it was something where the bottom floor, the first floor was all of the gym equipment. And then the second floor was a lot of the cardio equipment. And it was basically, it had a big opening. So the cardio equipment, you could all look down at everyone training for the weights. And so it would basically be a lot of girls up on the cardio looking down at all of the guys training in the gym. And so me and my friend at that time were some of the only girls down there training in the gym. And thankfully ended up making some really great guy friends that were there to help us, whether it was to spot us, to be able to cheer us on, or just chat with us. They were very welcoming, and I'm always so grateful for it. And it's actually really special because a few of them actually are in the fitness space still, and we still have really great connections. And it's just, we always reflect on our old JC days. That was the name of the gym the school gym that we went to, the Johnson Center. So it was something where I had a really great support once I did get into the gym. And once I fully got into it, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I started to see how truly capable I was, that I could lift so much more. I was seeing my body change. And so then I started to learn more about nutrition. And my degree is actually in broadcast journalism. But as I was getting to the end of college, I was realizing I don't want to do the news for my job. I just felt that I learned more about the actual job, what the requirements were, the times that you had to wake up in the morning, what your life was going to look like. And I just realized that's not what I want to do. And I had this huge passion for fitness. So I actually had finished all of my credit hours and I just needed more hours to graduate. And so I just took as many nutrition or exercise science type classes as I could to be able to learn and soak it in because I was like, I need to take classes regardless. Might as well take it in something I'm interested in. And so then I went and I moved back home after college, moved in with my parents so that I could start my fitness business. So I went ahead and opened online business and was also training people in person. And then I was waitressing on the side just to be able to make ends meet because I basically just jumped and hoped that I would build the parachute on the way down. And I had the support of my parents, which was absolutely phenomenal. My sister was actually building a business of her own at the time, and she was also living at home. And they were like, you have to pay for other things, but rent is taken care of, and you guys go and try for your dreams. And that was, I literally don't know if I could have made ends meet if I didn't have that. And then just their overall support. I remember them being very worried, where my dad was like, can can you actually make a living as a personal
Yep.
trainer? And I was like, yes, these people online are doing it. Like, I can do this. And I actually hadn't met Alex at that time. I actually met him right as I was finishing college. And so then I was getting into my business. He already had his business, and I just went after it. I was like, I'm going to be posting YouTube videos. I'm going to be on Instagram. I'm going to be everywhere that I need to be. And I just put my head down for about a year and just made as much money as I could, got my name out there as much as I could. And then Alex and I got married later that year and ended up moving right after that. And then a year after that, ended up combining our businesses to now be in the place that we are now. So it really came from just wanting to look better and feel better in my skin because I was always surrounded, I felt, with friends that looked so much better than me. So it was nothing to do with my health. It was just, I want to look better. And then it really snowballed into something that I found an incredibly huge passion for. I loved being able, that's why I even started my fitness Instagram, as I was learning so much and it was so exciting. And as I learned stuff, all I wanted to do was share it with other people because I felt so lost for so long because I would try to do the fitness thing. I had probably started my fitness journey 10 plus times before it actually stuck because I had no idea what I was doing and I would just be following really bad advice from Pinterest or just trying to not eat, and that wasn't very sustainable or wasn't yielding the results that I wanted to. And so as I learned more and more about food and fitness, I was just like, I want to share this with as many people as possible because I would love if I had this information when I first started out. So that's where it all came to be. And then we are here almost, oh my gosh, it's 7 years, 9 years later. I don't even know how many years later, but quite a few, and very happy with everything that how it's panned out.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Your story is kind of sounds similar to mine, where it was like I had my parents really help me out with starting my business too, in terms of, like you said, taking care of rent. And same thing, I'm sure they didn't specifically say it to me, but it was, so do you actually think you can actually make money doing this? And there's plenty of people online doing it, so I definitely can relate to that. And I think having that support is definitely super helpful there. And it was cool to hear your story with you and Alex, just because I didn't know if you guys started it together, but it sounds like you guys both had your own business and then you guys combined it. And now it's Physique Development. And you guys have, how many coaches do you guys have working for you guys now at this point?
We have three, not including Alex and I, and we are bringing on another one. And then we have a team of about 18 people total being able to help with everything. So it's crazy now looking at it. And especially we have a team party coming up and we're organizing everything for everyone to come in town. And it's just wild because just to see through the years of the past team parties of the first one, okay, there might be 5 or 6 people here. And now to be at the point where it's like almost 20 people coming into town for the staff party, it's a really surreal feeling of just, oh my gosh, this is a real business, where it just felt like I was a kid either out of my dorm room or out of my parents' house trying to make something happen. And I even got a testimonial from a client the other day, and she had said something in it like, you might feel like it's, what's the word that she used? I don't remember the exact word that she used, but you might feel a little bit scared within physique development because they're so polished, they're such like a big business, but they really do treat you as a person and they are real people. And even just reading that, I was like, oh my gosh, you view it as this huge, ginormous thing. And to me, sometimes I still see it as I'm just a college kid in my dorm room trying to make it happen. Because I am still figuring things out along the way, as we all are. That's the secret, is everyone is still just figuring it out. So it's a really special feeling, even talking about some of the people we've hired this year, of them saying, like, this was a dream job for me, or this is now my career. It's, oh, shit. Yeah, it fucking is. Let's go.
Yep. With your coaches, like, are they all full time? And then what do you typically look for in the coach and somebody that you guys like bring on, as I'm assuming you call them assistant coaches, or yeah, I'm not sure what the terminology is, but a coach or whatever design. What do you guys like typically look for there with that?
Yeah, so they are all full time. And a big thing that we are looking for is culture fit above basically everything else, is to make sure that they fit within what our core values are and what our mission is and what we want to accomplish. Because I can teach someone a skill, but I can't always teach someone passion or the mission to really believe in what that is. So we go through a lot when it comes to core values and what our mission is. But then from there, it's something where we go through a lot when it comes to being able to see what their true skill is. Because I will say that hiring me, as someone who hired someone 4 or 5 years ago versus me hiring someone now, is very different. And
Yeah.
again, a very humbling experience to realize, oh, I did a horrible job at hiring people or vetting people or going through that process. Whereas now it's something where we have an application that's pretty in depth, and they have to send a video letter to be able to apply. So we get to see them. And it's like a barrier of, if you don't want to put in the effort to fill this out and get everything to us that we need, then that's already shown me that not a great fit for this team. And then from there, getting on the initial interview and just being able to learn about them, being able to go through what would be required of them as far as the nuts and bolts of the coaching. And then we go through a lot of trials. So I'll send them like a trial onboarding, and they have to onboard a client and show me what that looks like, being able to do client check-ins to really see that in practice. Because I found that people can lie on interviews and people can just tell you what you want to hear. And that doesn't mean that they're bad people per se, but they just might not be the best fit. And that's something, a mistake I made in the past, is just assuming where someone's skill level was at, where it's really important for those skills to be in a certain spot. I know I just said if I can teach someone a skill, but there are certain skills
Right.
that I need to know that you're keeping an eye out for, because it's extremely important to us of how the client experiences, and also, of course, the client results. And I do not feel comfortable putting my name behind someone that, like, if a client were to come to me and say, I'm unhappy with these results, if I wouldn't go to bat for that person and be like, I know that this person is incredible at their job, then I shouldn't feel comfortable hiring them if I wouldn't go to bat for them for something like that. Just really being able to have passion within what you're doing is huge, but knowing the actual ins and outs of what do you do with a client, what things do you pay attention to, and what do you talk about? Because I found that a lot of people throughout the hiring process, that they would just overlook a lot of details, where it's, this is why clients aren't seeing results, because of these details that keep getting overlooked, or keep having something more cookie cutter slapped on it, of, it's like, having something of a template or a checklist of things to go through is fine, but truly just being like, we're starting here and here without this data or feedback, then that's something that shows me of, you're not taking a look at the full picture. And I also even do things where I'm not trying to trick anyone, but I'll say, hey, here's everything for the onboarding. Let me know if you have any questions at all. And it's really telling to me if someone asks questions or not, of, someone might just be like, okay, I'll do an onboarding to what I think is best, versus someone being like, hey, I understand you want an onboarding, but do you want this included and this included? And what else would you like from this? To really make sure that they're doing the best job that they can do. And that is a big separator of, are you just going to take something and assume what needs to be done? Or are you going to try and figure out what that person really wants or means by that? And again, not me trying to trick anyone, but it is a very helpful little step there to see how someone goes about the process.
Yeah, paying attention to the details, because I do think that when probably in this field, and especially online in particular, those details are super important, especially when it comes to offering a personal service like that. Do they pay attention to those details? I think are super important. And then I agree, the passion I think is one too, because I feel like I'm sure people ask you this too, but a lot of new coaches will always kind of ask me, like, they want to get in, but then the day I always have to tell them, like, you have to really want to do it. I think that is super important, especially in this industry. And like you said, the kind of perception is like you can't really make any money. It's hard to make money, but it's for me working through those tough times was that passion, right? And so that is something that you can't really learn. You just have to have it, right? So I do agree. I think that's super important. Do you guys look, obviously I'm sure those are the most important. Do you guys have any in terms of like education, anything that you look for in particular there? Or is it more, hey, we're really just looking for that passion, attention to detail, stuff like that?
So one thing that we have actually done, a majority of our staff is actually past or current clients. And that's been something really special. And the great thing about that is it allows us to learn about that person, learn about their work ethic, and learn about like their characteristics throughout coaching them. Like you get to learn a lot about your clients. It also allows us to have time where they see how the process is done and what is expected. And then they're also learning throughout that process. So I know that they know certain things because I have specifically taught that to that person. And I can feel confident that they were able to really take that into their life and apply it. And it's also something where you're able to see of again what that person cares about and what it looks like for their day to day. So even people that aren't coaches on our staff, a majority of them have been clients or are currently clients. Every coach has been a client. And so while it's not required, it definitely helps because then they're already bought in. They're already like, I'm team PD. I already know how this goes. And like for someone like our salesperson, that's an incredible position to have someone who is a client because they can really talk to the person of, hey, I was scared too. I was worried about this too, but this is my personal experience and I can really vouch for this. It's really powerful. So it definitely helps if they have worked with us or just supported us in some way. Because if someone's applying, and again, not saying that I just throw away anyone who's never heard of physique development, but if someone is applying and doesn't know about us, then that again is another barrier I have to think about if I have to teach you about what we're all about. And I have to make that very clear to you as quickly as possible so you can see if you're bought in or bought out to this, because I only want people that are truly bought in. Now, when it comes to certifications, of course, we want someone to be at least have their CPT. That is the most important, just to make sure that all of our butts are covered legally and that we're all set to go. But even from there, it's not that I require of, oh, it needs to be from NASM or it needs to be from ACE. It's really, do you have a CPT and is it all good to go? Then I'm good with that. And then outside of that, the certifications or like the letters after your name are great. But again, I really want to see what that skill does because I have gone through the hiring process with people that have really impressive letters after their name that don't know what they're doing. And while it's a great thing when you're talking about being able to understand and separate of, okay, this person has RD after their name. That means that they know so much, or they're going to be so good. Or this person has their CSCS. That means that they're going to be an incredible coach. I've just seen firsthand, it doesn't always translate of having certain letters after your name, making you a good coach. And so we've been asked that of what things do I need to be able to apply? And I'm like, you need your CPT, period. From there, I really want to see your skill set in action and how it goes because our one-on-one service is our top service. It's the one that I care about the most. It's the one that gets the most attention. It's the one with the most people helping out to make sure it's the absolute best customer experience because that's also something within marketing. I don't want to say something and it not be true. And so I'm not going to sit here and be like, we can guarantee results or we can do this if I don't feel extremely confident that can happen. And I do feel extremely confident that can happen. And it's also something where I get questions just from coaches in general of what certification should I get next, just for like them to be better. And my biggest piece of advice I would give to anyone, if you're like, what certification should I get next, is really looking at what clientele you are working with. Because I had someone who was like, I'm looking at getting this like really in-depth like lab reading certification. I'm like, that exact one that you're talking about, great certification, incredible. But seeing people go through it, actually have a coach on staff that has done it and really great. But from what you have expressed to me, you're not wanting to work with more advanced cases that would need to see lab work and need to get into the weeds of all of this. Having a baseline understanding of all of it, incredible. But if this is going to be out of your scope and out of your desired, like ideal client, then I wouldn't recommend that. Where it might be better to go and get something due to mobility because you're seeing that a lot of your clients are not as mobile as they want to be or having problems with stretching or whatever that may be. It's something to really look at what your clientele is and what they need and what gap in your skills is there that you might need to fulfill. And then outside of that, for our coaches, we also pay for their education for different things. So we're actually having them go through Casey Joe. She has a health mindset coaching certification. They're all starting that in August, and we're putting the whole team through it to be able to help them with helping their clients with their mindset. We've been able to pay for different certifications through them and really talking through which ones are the best. And then we also do monthly or bi-monthly EDU calls. So we have someone who's an expert in a field to be able to come in and talk about something. And I really pull the coaches to see what are they struggling with clients right now. Because again, I know a lot of people in my network, and I could have someone come on and talk about even something like steroids, of how to go through using steroids. But that's not really our client base. That's not going to help the coaches. And it's just going to take more time away from them, whether they're families or doing the job that they need to do and filling their brain with a lot of information that they may never use or likely will never use. And so we really pull the coaches of what are you dealing with clients right now? What do you feel like you need more help in? And then being able to support that. So the past few EDUs have actually been with the same person, and they're actually on our muscle series that we just came out with on the podcast there. And they're a few episodes away, so you have time until that one comes, but really talking about how to assess someone online and like their structure, because some people having structural deviations, that's been huge, of like, how do we make sure that we have the right programming in place so we're making things better instead of keeping them the same or making them worse, but also just how to spot that when you are looking at just pictures, or if you are looking at video, of how can you see, is someone dealing with an issue with their rib cage? Are they dealing with an anterior pelvic tilt? How does it look for their scapular winging? Or taking a look at all of that and really diving into their deep core and how to navigate everything with it, from like their breathing to how they're standing. So we will pull up case studies of current clients, of looking at it, be like, okay, do you see how their foot is here? Do you see how that could mean? And see how their shoulder is in this one. This is something that we want to be able to look at so we can help clients quicker, because that's always my goal with this education, is not only to say that we do it, and it's something, again, one of our core values is being able to educate and empower. And that's not only educating our clients, but again, educating our staff and educating anyone who follows us. But it's also something of any way that we can help clients get results faster and more efficiently, then I'm going to do that. And we've already seen of being able to have these resources for the team has helped them so incredibly much to be able to just fine tune their skill and get better and better at helping their clients.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It sounds like it's, again, just like we would take an individualized approach to our clients. It's like same thing with your coaches too, right? Again, there's great certs out there, but is that going to be the best one for you? Is that going to actually help your clients that you work with and everything like that? Yeah, I love that. I think that's awesome. And again, that's, like you said, you could take something that, again, it's great, but is it actually going to help there with that? And Casey Joe actually recently had her on the podcast. Definitely recommend all her stuff. She's great. And the mindset side of things is just so important. That's definitely one of those things that I feel like if we're looking at either probably coaches more than anything, that's probably one thing that's lacking in terms of what we offer is the mindset side of things. And it is so important. I think that's awesome that you guys do that. So what about for you specifically? Obviously you have a team now. So I don't know, do you still do the same amount of coaching? What does your kind of role look like now at this point that you have a team? Is it mostly development, the other coaches, or yeah, what, and then I guess to finish that off, do you have any particular like clientele or anything that you work with specifically?
So my job has changed a lot over the past few years because of the growing team. And there's definitely been growing pains with that, where when I first started coaching, of course, I wanted to grow a team and I wanted to be in coaching, but something about me is it's not that I don't dream, but I don't always see all of the road in front of me of what can be. And that's why Alex and I actually work really great together, is because he is like big time dreamer. He's thinking about 12 things down the road and sees all that. And I am like the executor. Like, I will get shit done day to day. That is me. And that is also why I am the CEO. And so with that position, I stepped into that position about 2 years ago. And it was something where I had a lot of friction with it of I had been working full time with clients for so long. And then as the staff grew, it was like, okay, we need someone to be able to manage all of this. And we got some mentorship and ended up being like, okay, Sue, you need to be the CEO and you need to be able to offboard your clients. And so at the time, I had between 60 and 70 clients, and I immediately cut it down to 30. And I got the clients off to the other coaches on staff and got everything transferred over for them. And then from there, I just kept whittling down my roster more and more. So at this time, I have about 10 to 12 clients that I'm working with, and they're all like longer term clients that I've been with for quite some time. So it's something where I love coaching, and I don't foresee at this exact time, never say never, a time where I'm not coaching anyone, but it is nice to definitely have that smaller roster with everything else that is on my plate. So with that, my job is really based on being able to manage everyone on the team and move the business forward. So at this time, I'm the CEO, the COO, the CFO, and the head of sales. So my plate is a little bit full, and we are trying to work on offboarding more of those. And recently just got assistance for Alex and I. So that's been a huge help to start offboarding some work there. But a large part of it outside of creating content, like being on the podcast, being on our YouTube channel, putting stuff on Instagram, is just making sure I'm looking at all of the data. And that's one of the hugest things that I've realized is we want to make data-driven decisions. And that was something where at the beginning of our business, we were not keeping track of as much data as we should have been. And now it's something where I'm very well known of, even in a team meeting, we do a lot of like shout outs, and someone had submitted of Sue is really great at showing that anything is just data for us. It's not that you've done bad or anything like that. It's data, and we look at that data and then make the best decisions forward. And that was like a huge moment for me, because it's like the fact that's been instilled in everyone else, and they can really see that from me of, oh, it's not that this person sucked or this person messed up. It's like, this is data. How do we improve from this? How do we get better stats? How do we get this to where we want to go? So it's a lot of projecting, as well as being able to read the data and understand what the data means, because I think a lot of times people aren't looking at that full picture, and they get into a point where it's, okay, sales aren't where they need to be. And it's, did you even have enough open slots to get on calls to get as many sales as you needed to? Did you even have enough leads to be able to get into the sales funnel to then be able to end up closing? And so it's really being able to look at everything and see what does need to be done. So that's a lot of my day to day right now, is just working on the business instead of before I was working very much so in the business. But I think something else that's really powerful is how much that Alex and I have both invested when it comes to mentorship for ourselves. So not only mentorship when it comes to fine-tuning our skills within coaching, that we both still get mentorship on that. Like, I have had multiple different mentors through the years based on, again, what I need for the clients and what we're really working on for like where things need to go, but also business mentors. So we've had the sales mentors, business mentors, marketing mentors to be able to help us along the way. And I think that it is just something where you do need to be able to invest in yourself, and investing in your skills is only going to help you. We have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on education for ourselves, and I don't regret a single dime of any of them. Even if some of them I felt weren't the greatest, I feel like I still learned from them, whether it was an expensive lesson of you should have better vetted this out or whatever it was. It's something that it's so powerful to invest in yourself. And then that's also going all in on yourself constantly of, I'm going to spend this because I'm going to hold myself to the standard to keep improving. And I'm also something, if I'm not improving, then what am I doing? And it doesn't mean, oh, I need to have a brand new certification every year and I need to be having all of these things to show other people. It's, am I getting at least 1% better each day? Whether that's me being a better communicator, me being a better leader, me being a better coach, me being a better marketer, me being a better salesperson, whatever it may be. If I'm just getting a little bit better at each thing, then that's what I strive for to improve, even if it's getting better within my own training and how I'm able to execute the movements. It's all about the excitement of those little pieces to be able to bring everything together.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I know talking to other coaches, I do think that is a big mistake that coaches do make if they're trying to build their business, is not investing back in themselves. It's like you want to invest you want people to invest in you, you need to be able to invest in yourself as well too, right? And I found that to be people that I've seen come in and out of the industry, that seems to be one of the big ones there is people don't want to invest in themselves. And that's a big one. One other thing you mentioned that I want to hit on too, you talked about like tracking metrics and stuff like that for your business. I can definitely relate to that too. That's one thing that I've always, for the longest time didn't do, started doing that. It is super important because again, we tell our clients to do that. And then it's now we're not doing it from the business side of things. And again, it's just looking at the data and then making informed decisions from that was super important. And again, it's just funny because I tell clients to do that, but I wasn't doing the same thing with my business. And it is so important, right? Because then we tell them, oh, hey, don't just focus on the scale. You need to focus on your inputs. But it's like kind of the same thing, right? That you're not focusing on the inputs there. And that tells you what you need to do. So I think it's super important. I'm glad you brought that up.
Want to see progress, track progress. And that's what I remind my clients and I remind myself. And that's where it's also really telling for me if someone says, hey, I'm not seeing these things where I need to see them without even looking at what they have. If I say, okay, then let's take sales for an example of how many call slots do you have available? I don't know, just as many as I need. Okay, then what's your like show ratio or like for as many as you schedule, how many people show up? I don't know. I guess most people show. That's really telling to me. If you don't know your numbers and if you don't keep track of certain things, then that's 100% of okay. Then go back and see these numbers because anyone who's trying to sell you some snake oil and be like, I can make it all better and I can fix all those things. If you don't have the numbers, there's no way for you to fix anything or to understand anything. Of course, you can try to get incrementally better. Of just I'm going to get better at getting on calls and I'm going to get better at doing this, but really being able to recognize if you want to see progress, track progress, period. In any section of your life, whether it is fitness, whether it is business, whether it's personal, whether it is anything, if you want to see progress, you got to track progress.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. As far as physique development goes and yourself too, what are like most common kind of clients that you typically work with?
Yeah, we work with a lot of busy individuals. So that would be our overarching is like very busy girlies. And so that's going to be working moms in general. We do a lot of perinatals before getting pregnant, helping clients get pregnant, not like personally, but you know what I'm saying. And then being able to help with the whole postpartum experience. We actually have 3 coaches on staff, including myself, that are perinatal certified. And then we also have a lot of like people in the like people that are high level executives and just trying to navigate through their life. So overall, it's people that are busy. And I don't personally love the word busy because I think that there's a lot of ways that you can look at what that term means. But I think it is very encapsulating if someone were to be like, oh, I'm someone who doesn't have a lot of time and I want to be able to make these things happen. It's being able to show like it doesn't take being in the gym 6 or 7 days a week and you don't need to be spending a million hours doing all these things, but we do need to get very clear on what inputs are going to work for you and to be able to get there. It's people that want to gain muscle, people that want to lose fat, but overall it's busy individuals who likely have worked with another coach, but we are going to be the last coach that they ever need. So like I said, we do a lot when it comes to education that we want clients to be able to learn what to do. So it's not that, okay, they either have to work with us forever to keep seeing results, or once they stop working, they stop seeing results. Because also we work very heavily on referrals. And if I got great results and then someone's looking at them and they're like, you don't look in shape at all. They're like, I lost them. Then it's like, how much of that is really speaking to what that service is. And so we've actually had people where we've had the parents sign up, then sign up their kids, be able to have different family members, friends, coworkers, everything across the board, because we really want to be able to have results that stick and teach you how to do it. So it's a lot based on, again, that education and being able to help you understand. We're not here for a quick fix. I can help you lose weight really quickly, but I'm not going to, because I want you to be able to sustain that fat loss and really understand what it's about and how to build a lifestyle out of this. Because again, I've been on the other edge of the coin of trying to make it happen. And you might be like, oh, Weight Watchers helped me before. But again, you're still trying to lose that same 10 pounds. I want you to lose that weight and keep it the fuck off and know how to do that without feeling like you have to just restrict yourself or never have fun ever again. It's really about how can you make this fit into your life? And that's so much of that personal aspect as within coaching is that people ask questions of, okay, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? And let's really look at your life. Let's look at what's doable. Let's let's look at what you're already doing. Let's look at what you enjoy and let's build a plan that makes the most sense for you. And then that's really, again, where that lifelong sustainability comes from, because they understand how we're changing variables based on the circumstance. So it's a lot of being able to talk through, what do you do when you travel? What do you do when family's in town? What do you do when there's holidays? How do you navigate through all of this while still being able to keep your goals? What do you do when you're trying to have family dinner and your kids are running around and you don't have time for yourself? It's let's figure that out and let's make a plan for you.
Awesome. Yeah. So again, very personalized. And again, like going, again, this may be something that you commonly see, but just going beyond just the macros and training program. Obviously, that stuff's important, but really diving in and seeing what, just like you do with your coaches, seeing what the limiting factors are and really working on those there with that. So yeah, no, I think we got a good background there of physique development and who you guys work with and what makes you guys different and how you really do focus on the personalization of everything. I think that's super important. So I did bring you on to talk about your glute progress. So I think we're gonna switch to that right now and talk about that for the last half of this call, or this podcast. But yeah, no. So I guess for you to go into your training, nutrition, everything like that, I know that you had this, I guess you could call it glute transformation pretty recently. And so I just wanted to talk to you about that. So maybe go over like the overview of it. What was your goal with it? Why you wanted to do it and everything like that.
Yeah, I wanted to do it because I wanted huge glutes. And I think that a lot of women can relate to that. I was someone where in middle school, I got made fun of for being told that my back went straight to my legs. And genetically, just glutes are not really in the cards for me. And I had thought that was the case of, okay, I can have other great body parts, but maybe glutes aren't going to be my thing. And I was like, no, I am going to have glutes. I know how to help people build glutes. Alex knows how to help people build glutes. How do we make this happen for me? And so we really went to work and over a year's time built out a program that then I ran that program. So we did different testing to be able to figure out, okay, what sessions were going to work best, how was the layout of the exercises, what movement patterns did we want to use, what the volume needed to be, all of that stuff. And then I started it in 2023, and it is a 12-week program. And throughout that 12 weeks, I ended up adding 3 inches to my glutes. So my glutes started around 35/36. I say /36 because it was something where I was in a diet beforehand and then had like adding some weight back on. So it was in a variance there. And I always like to go with just also for people of, oh, okay, if you went from 35 inches and then you went to 39 inches, now you're saying you had 4 inches in 12 weeks. That feels like very unbelievable. I've had people say that, which was honestly the best compliment that anyone could ever pay me. I'm like, I've never been told that my results look fake. So thank you so much.
Yep.
That is the case. And I was able to add 3 inches to my glutes, kept really close look on everything, on measurements, on movements and everything. But it was an incredible program to go all in on. And then even after that, I actually finished it up right around the time that my dad ended up unexpectedly passing away. And I only bring that up because it was something where it was a very obviously hard time in my life, even throughout that 12 weeks, because my dad was sick. And so to be able to accomplish the program, and especially it's 4 days a week and it's only 60-minute sessions. So that made it much more doable for me than trying to be like 5 or 6 days in the gym and having those longer sessions. So that was huge to be able to navigate through all of that. But then at the end, I was originally going to immediately rerun the program because you can run it back to back of running it for another 12 weeks. But I was needing some time to deal with everything that was going on. So I ended up going to doing just 30-minute sessions of full body sessions for 2 or 3 months. And again, I mentioned that because being able to be in a spot where you maintain glute growth really shows that it was true glute growth instead of, okay, maybe you just had some more glucose and your muscle stores were a little bit bigger, so you cheated the system. Of being able to end that with my glute measurement at 39 inches, being able to go through an extremely stressful and depressing time in my life where it was lucky if I ate enough food and I was lucky if I got out 3 times a week for a 30-minute full body session. And so then when about 12 weeks ago, because I just recently finished the glute program for a second time, when I was starting it, my glute measurement was still between a 38 and a 39. And that was something that I felt spoke volumes for. This was real tissue that I hard fought, put on and kept on, even without having all of the perfect variables in a place. So it wasn't just, oh, some more glycogen stores there and you were able to get a good angle. It was like this was actually real tissue. And that was a huge thing of people. I had some people make comments of like, why are you just posting your butt online? And I was like, the reason that I'm posting pictures the way that I am is because I know that different clothing can make your glutes look much different. And so I would take pictures in the gym in the same spot, and I would take my like workout shorts and I would pull them up so you could just see just my glute, and take a side shot from a neutral position so someone could very clearly see what the progress was, instead of taking like a posed photo or an angle from a pair of shorts that's going to make me look really good. It was like, let's show everything from start to finish. So then I restarted the glute program after those 2 to 3 months that were pretty tumultuous. And from there was able to, even without this past 12 weeks being perfect, because again, we had a lot going on with work, a lot going on personally. I had very high stress and some different stuff come up. But even with that, was able to get to the point where I saw 40 inches on my glute measurement, which was absolutely insane. And that was a goal of mine. If I can at least see a number that starts with a 4, then I will be very happy. So being able to get to that 40 inches is incredible to be there. Now, a lot of my clothes don't fit me anymore because my glutes now, as they have grown, have made it that my dresses and skirts are too short on me, and some of my shorts fit a little bit uncomfortably because my glutes are bigger. But it's something that I'll just have to live with, and I will take that in stride. But like I said, it is a 4 times a week program, 60 minutes or less for the sessions. As it gets later into the program, actually the sessions get a little bit shorter, and it was something that we felt extremely passionate about. I did eat at maintenance or a slight surplus throughout the whole time, but I saw extremely minimal fat gain. And that's even when I post the pictures, people are like, oh, it went all to your glutes and you saw nothing else. And I did see some fat gain, because you really can't see straight muscle gain with absolutely no fat gain. But the goal was to keep as minimal fat gain, because I know that a lot of women struggle with the concept of bulking or trying to grow muscle because they get really uncomfortable in their bodies. And so it was also to show recent research showing that you only need to be in a very slight surplus. Now, can it still take longer that way? Of course. Do other factors go into it, as far as how good is your sleep? How good is your recovery? How intense is your training? Yes. But if we're taking the nuance out of it, of really just being able to see that you just need a slight surplus and to consistently be at that, it was to showcase of you don't need to gain all of this weight to also grow the muscles that you want to grow. You just need to be able to go about it in a proven way. And that's exactly what we wanted to showcase.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like you said, not only were you able to maintain it, but you were able to run it again and still see some progress there. So you answered a lot of the questions I was going to have on it. So good job, Art. You already knew what I was going to ask on a lot of them. But you mentioned you ran this during maintenance, slight surplus. Would this be something that you would run like during a fat loss phase, or would you change it up? And then have you done a fat loss phase like since doing all this?
Yeah. So I haven't done a fat loss phase since doing all of this, and I wouldn't recommend doing this in a fat loss phase because, one, if your main focus is building muscle, then don't be in a fat loss phase. Like, again, you don't have to be in a huge bulk or this huge surplus, and you don't even have to be at a surplus. You can just be at maintenance, but being in a deficit just basically makes everything that much harder. And especially with the volume of this program and how much intensity you have to have, I just will say that the average person is not going to be able to bring that intensity and that level of consistency and recovery in a deficit. And I say average person, not to talk down to anyone, but just knowing what someone's average life looks like and having experience with thousands of clients and seeing what their day to day looks like. As someone who is a past competitor, then I could say, okay, maybe in a deficit with very controlled conditions, I could make this happen. But I would highly recommend just being at maintenance. And again, if you are training hard, you could see recomp or see some fat loss with it. But the goal, and that's what I always try to keep in mind, the goal is muscle growth. And so if that's the goal, keep the goal and focus on that. You can minimize the things that you don't want to have in place, but really focusing on, I'm going all in on this. And that's also what I wanted to show of, you can like really make this the goal and see the results that you want. And with the progress photos that I've shared and just the photos in general, it's really to showcase of this is what can happen for you. And it's been incredible to see other people's transformations throughout the process too, of just being able to be like, oh, this stuff really actually works. And it's, yeah, it does. We have lots of experience with programming and getting feedback from clients and put this together after working with over 3,000 clients and knowing what it took to get to where we wanted to go, and then used me as a test subject.
So you said you haven't ran a fat loss phase since then. So like next time you do one, I don't know if you're planning on doing one anytime soon or anything like that. Would you do anything to make sure that you maintain, or would you change anything? Yeah, to maybe, I guess when I say change anything, like maybe from the last time you've done a fat loss phase, is there anything that you would do differently or focus on specifically
We
to,
actually recorded our whole last fat loss phase that we did. So that is a series we have on YouTube called Leaner Together. And Alex and I, actually, it was a year ago because our wedding anniversary is coming up at the end of July this month. And we did
congrats?
a 12-week, thank you, a 12-week diet going into our vacation for our anniversary. And so that is all on YouTube of us going through everything. And you actually see Alex doing a check-in with me, talking through the data, showing what changes. We had different things that we traveled for during that time. I think we traveled 2 or 3 different times and had like social stuff come up. And we talked through everything that we navigated to really make sure that we're able to achieve the look that we wanted, but still keep it very lifestyle. And so, with that in mind, I would basically do the same things, because what I really talk to about clients, especially with maintaining muscle mass when you're dieting, comes down to making sure you're eating enough protein, making sure that you're really recovering and taking care of yourself, but then making sure that you're not letting yourself be a little wimp in the gym. That's what a lot of people get into is, I'm dieting, I got to lift less. And it's, no, you got to lift the same, if not more. And I have seen that I have had PRs when I'm dieting within lifting weights. So it's only when I get to the very, very end of an extreme contest prep that I've seen any drop off within my strength. And so being able to have done that is also something that's shown to me of, hey, I've gone through 4 or so preps. I've gotten to this extreme level and seen what it takes to maintain as much muscle as possible. And it's the stuff that doesn't seem as sexy or fun, but it's literally keep your protein up, make sure your recovery's in the best spot, and train like you freaking mean it. And then you'll be able to maintain your muscle. And with recovery, I'm also talking about sleep. And that's a huge piece of being able to keep your blood sugars in the right levels, keep inflammation down, be able to build muscle and or lose fat, and a million other things. Sleep is like the #1 performance enhancing drug that most people do not even utilize. So being able to keep those things in mind. And again, they're not sexy, they're not anything new. These things have been around for years and years, but that's what shows that they work. And again, I've seen it firsthand for myself and seen it in many clients of, we can maintain this if we just make sure that we're smart about what we're doing.
Yeah, the sleep one, like you said, that's a boring one. Anytime you bring that up, it's like, nope, it's got to be something else that's off, or something else I got to work on. But like you said, it's super important, especially like you said, in a deficit, important all the time, but especially in a deficit for maintaining muscle and all the things you mentioned. So I guess then, as far as the like program goes and what you did, you said it's higher volume, stuff like that. I guess what were some other kind of tangible things that were in it that maybe set it apart from what you'd done in the past from like a glute training program? And I'm assuming this was also like things that you guys threw in that you guys had learned that, like you said, worked with clients that you saw in research that worked and stuff like that as well too. So I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about some of the programming variables and stuff like that that were in there.
Yeah. So I will say real quick that it's not necessarily like high volume. And I just want to make that
Yeah.
asterisk, because I know that like people like me saying high volume versus, again, like someone else saying high volume, we picture very different things.
Absolutely.
So it was a little bit higher volume than I had been doing, but it's definitely not beat you over the head type of volume or junk volume. But some of the things that were put in there was really paying attention to what it looked like for the flow of the workout. And that's also why we tested different things beforehand. Of anyone who's ever trained, know that sometimes you get a program and it's just, this is like a dud, even though the exercises are all great and it's a great program overall, but it just feels boring to go through it. Or it's, okay, I do this exercise, then I see the next exercise and I'm like, you're trying to get me to do that after I do that. So it was really looking at the exercise selection, but then also the place of where that exercise went in the session, and being able to focus on a little bit more stuff unilaterally than I had in the past was a big part of it. And being able to bring in some different movements that I hadn't done as consistently in the past. So this program actually doesn't have squats in it. It does have squat pattern. So like a split squat or a reverse lunge or a step up, but it's not having a specific squat in it. And that's something that was really helpful for me because I have a longer torso and longer femurs. And so squatting can be more difficult for me. And so needed some exercises that had more output, as well as thinking about that 60-minute time frame of if I have to set up for a squat and execute everything with that, what does it look like for the rest of my whole session, and how does that feel for being able to get through everything? And then the systemic fatigue that I get from squatting. And again, if the goal is glute growth, then I don't want to have a full body systemic fatigue where then I can't go in the next day and train what I need to train. It's also only 2 leg days, which I know a lot of people are saying, oh, you got to train your glutes 3 times a week to be able to see that growth. And my big thing is if you're training hard enough and focusing when you're there, you don't need as many days or as much time when you're going through that. And then it has the progressive overload built in. So it starts off with a neurological based phase, which is really based on more strength. And it actually has a little bit of metabolic work towards the end to be able to help with those length of the session. If they're full neurological, they might stretch until 75 minutes to 90 minutes, but being able to have the last few exercises have those shorter rest periods, but really being able to focus on the execution and the output of those movements and getting those movement patterns down. Then it moves into some more hypertrophy work, which sets us up perfectly for being able to grow and having those in place. And then it moves into some more metabolic work towards the end to be able to make sure that your glycogen stores are as full as possible, but also being able to make sure that we're minimizing, again, that fat gain. So being able to be in a spot where you have those shorter rest periods and that glucose is being processed a little bit faster, then that's going to put you in a better spot to be able to keep that fat gain to a real minimum. So it was some other movements that we have in there that I hadn't done a ton before, as far as like a comparison to other ones, was that we had a back foot or a B stance RDL. So I'd done a lot of RDLs in my time, but not as many B stance RDLs. So we had some like back foot elevated B stance RDLs and supported RDLs. We had some step ups in there, as well as, of course, some hip thrusts and some 45-degree hip extension, and 2 exercises that are the same but different that I really hadn't done a ton of was kickbacks. So we have a glute med kickback and a glute max kickback. And that was something where throughout getting ready for running the program was really focused on nailing down that form and execution. So we have the program that you can just buy the program, run the program by yourself and do your own thing in our app, where it tracks all of your progress, tracks your weights, and has videos in there so you know exactly how to perform. We also have different resources on how to gauge your intensity and how to do all of that. But then we also offer that you can do nutrition coaching with exercise review. So we normally just have a nutrition coaching, but we added on the exercise review because it is so important to be able to have someone watch you perform the exercises to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck and truly being able to engage the glutes, have the intensity that you need, all of those things. So if someone does want some extra support with going through it, then we have that exercise review and, of course, that nutrition to really make sure it pushes them over that hump, so to speak, of, okay, I'm in the gym, maybe I'm doing these movements, but I'm not feeling the engagement fully. Then we can really tweak and fine tune things to make sure that they're in the best boat.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because like you said, for example, I'm sure that probably something that you commonly see, or at least, yeah, maybe hear people like if they're not growing their glutes like they would like, is maybe they're trying to, like you said there, the back squat's not a great exercise for you, right? In terms of just your levers and everything like that, or not necessarily not a great exercise, but like you said, it added a lot of fatigue and maybe it didn't really necessarily hit your glutes as well as you wanted. So is that the best tool for the job there with that? And so I'm assuming that's probably a common mistake that you'll see people make with glute training, is like just trying to maybe fit in certain exercises that they think they need to be doing, but it's just not a good exercise for them, whether that be a back squat or something like that.
Yeah. And also people thinking of a glute exercise as just a glute exercise. And it's yes and no. We can't necessarily just sub in something that's training the glutes in the more shortened position for something that's training it in the lengthened position. So there is a good amount of stuff in the lengthened position because that's shown in research to be where we do see the most growth when it comes to hypertrophy, but making sure we're training through the whole range of motion and having things like the kickbacks, the 45-degree hip extension, and the hip thrust to be able to get to that shortened position and get through that whole range of motion. And so it's not just, oh, we're throwing in a lot of exercises to make sure that you're sore and make sure that you felt that it was hard. That's not my goal ever when it comes to programming. My goal is, did I get the tension on the muscle? And did I again look at the data of how many sets are needed to truly grow and to bias this muscle group? And what does this look like in the grander scheme of things to make sure that someone could see results in this? And like really taking a look at, okay, what place are people coming from? What different types of people, whether they're beginner, intermediate, or advanced, are coming into this program? What considerations do we need to make when we're building it out? And it's really like, it's not just one specific exercise. It's not a specific rep scheme. It's not like this secret answer. It's literally all of those things built together to be able to make a good program that you can progress in. You can trust the exercise selection, and you can trust how much volume is in it. And you have exactly how to perform. Each exercise has a video going through exactly how to perform it, what different mistakes you can make, different helpful cues to make sure that you have the information. It's not just a PDF that says the exercise. It is in an app that you can watch the video directly in the app, track all of your weight, see how you're doing, which we also have a nutrition calculator in there, and then a whole video on how to see the best results with a nutrition calculator. And hint, it's not just randomly plugging in your information into it. There's more steps to it to get the best results that you can get. But we really took everything into consideration of what are the reasons that people can't see their glutes grow. And we basically made a whole list of everything of why they can't see their glutes grow. And we're like, how can we check off every single thing on this list with this program?
Is there any movement patterns that you see people like commonly overlook, not do, or maybe they overdo or anything like that?
I would say that it's that people try to get too cute with things too often, or they try to go with, oh, I need to squat to be able to do this
Yeah.
because this is like a basic lift of like squat or deadlift or bench, whatever it may be. I need to be able to do this exercise. Or you see it on Instagram and TikTok all the time of wonky exercises that people are doing just because it looks different. And they're like, this is the one exercise that glue my glutes. And I'll go ahead and give you a disclaimer there. Again, there's not going to be just one exercise that makes it all happen. And so I think that it's taking good exercises that, again, are proven and we know work, and being able to build it in within the movement patterns of how are we getting, again, in the lengthened and the shortened position and the mid range? How are we going throughout the session? What's the fatigue going to be? Because that's also something else people take, is they try to make themselves just sore and they try to like really just pile on the volume. But even when we're looking at the order of exercises, making sure that you're not putting people in an area that they can get hurt. So if you end up doing an exercise, 2 or 3 exercises, and then you have something like a kickback that they need a lot of stabilization for, like through their core and through their body, because they're not in a machine. It's a lot of variables going through there. Someone can end up injuring themselves, hurting their piriformis, or hurting another part of themselves because the fatigue has all piled on and you didn't give them a safe exercise to do. And so it's really thinking through what fatigue is being accumulated as they're going through these sessions. What do we need to keep in mind? And also, what's the most accessible to people in a typical gym? Of what do people have access to? And so we also made it of, all right, you need the leg extension and the leg curl, and you need a leg press and cables and dumbbells, but it's, you don't need anything special outside of that, of a super special machine to do something. It's, you need the basics to be able to get this done. So we wanted it to be, again, accessible for people who were in a typical gym and weren't going to have specialty equipment to get anything done. And also, I train from our home and we don't have like excessive specialty equipment. And so it's like, how do I get it done with the least amount of things to be able to make this the most worth my time?
Yeah, no, I love that breakdown of it. I do have a question that you brought up in exercise. So B stance RDLs, and then I think you said you had some support RDLs as well too, single leg. I think you said any particular reason for those? Yeah, I'm just curious to hear about that a little bit
Yeah.
more.
So one thing is that, again, with the B stance, is that your other foot is still on the ground. So I've seen a lot of people recently of doing RDLs and they have the other foot up. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but a big thing that we wanted to keep in mind is, how can I get the output with as much support as possible and
Yeah.
stability to be able to get that output? And so with the RDL, if I'm just doing no support, I just have the dumbbell, I'm lifting the other leg fully off the ground, really thinking of how much stability and balance
Yeah.
that takes, where I have to think of, again, what does that look like for the average person? Do they have that core stability? Can they even engage their core like that? What does it look like for anyone going through that movement? And so being able to put it in the B stance means that you are supported on the ground and you're really able to focus on one side, and then having it supported within having like your hand out in front of you and not putting weight in your hand. 10% of the weight is in your hand and 90% is within your legs there. But it really helps to, again, make sure that we're not twisting our body, make sure that we're not twisting our hips, and making sure that we're not in a place that we end up like having our upper body go down way too far, because we're in a place where we're trying to feel like more sensation, versus more tension. So it was something where being able to, like I said, those being able to do like single leg movements was something that I hadn't done as much of before. But it is so true that our bodies just do, we're not ever really symmetrical. So it's nice to be able to do things that are on my right leg than my left leg, and being able to see how things feel a little bit different, how I might need to make sure that I'm getting like that they are as similar as possible. Where I feel like if I'm just going through a normal RDL, which I have no beef towards normal RDLs, I love them, but that can be something where, again, people get into, okay, I'm just going to take this weight from point A to point B,
Yeah.
where we're really putting in how can we ensure that if we're not looking over this, someone's getting the most bang for their buck, someone's getting the best out of this movement, and being able to really get the tension that they need through that. And if we can add some support, then even better as they go through the movement.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like again, it's really just comes down to the, like you said, with the bilateral RDL, regular RDL, you'll see people, like you said, just move it from point A to point B. And by doing the B stance, it really allows you to hit that one side. And like you said, adding that stability also really helps with that as well too. And I've found with glute training that it seems like, yeah, definitely adding in some single leg stuff. Unfortunately, unilateral. I personally, I hate unilateral training, but I know it can be super beneficial. And clients tell me the same thing there. But it seems like from glute training, it's unfortunately it's if you really want to build your glutes, you're probably going to need to include some unilateral training into it.
Yeah, I do. I'm in the same boat as sometimes I'm like unilateral for anything because I'm like, it would be so much faster if I could just do it together. But that was something where I ended up finding out that I wasn't able to get to full hip extension with one of my hips. And I ended up going to see a neuromuscular therapist and working through that. But if I wasn't doing a single leg kickback, I would have never been able to find that out. Or if I was just doing like a 45-degree hip extension or just doing a hip thrust, I wouldn't be able to find out that one of my hips was actually having quite a hard time getting to full hip extension. And then I would be left wondering of like, why am I feeling it in one glute? Or why are my glutes not growing at the same rate? Or why am I feeling back pain with this and not with this? I was really able to learn more about my body and how it moves and really being able to engage in it. So you do need to stay focused during these sessions to be able to get them done in the time frame. But if you put your head down and you really are like, I'm going in, I'm getting this done, you can definitely knock it out in an hour and be able to be on your merry way.
Is how different's the loading for the B stance RDL and the single leg compared to doing like a bilateral?
Definitely lighter, of course, because you're just doing one side. But again, I felt that then I could focus more on the tension than just the weight, because that's something where people get in their heads about, oh, I've always lifted this for RDLs, that I need to keep lifting this or do more, which is a great mindset to have in theory, because you do want to progress and you do want to keep challenging yourself. But you don't want to get to a point that you're exchanging being able to do more weight for having less tension. And that's what I always try to check myself on is, am I having tension on the intended muscle? Because I can go up in weight in a lot of the things that I lift, but am I actually having that tension on the muscle? And if the answer is no, then I'm not going to go up in weight just to say, because then I'm going to use other muscles to be able to help me move that weight to get to where I want to go. And then that can put a lot of stress on like my joints and ligaments and end up with feeling really achy, breaky and tight and just wonky all around. And so I think it's helpful because it breaks it down of, oh, maybe someone hasn't done this movement. And so then they're not having this baseline for themselves of I should be at this weight, but it also allows them to be in a spot where as they're going through it, they're able to again like rediscover that for themselves. So for weight wise, trying to think of like for RDL, I might be able to use, and again, that also depends on what rep scheme you're doing and what the rest period is. But let's say all of those are the same, that I could do like 70s in my hands for 70s or 80s in my hands for a normal RDL. But then for the B stance RDL, I might go to having like 40s or 50s in my, and you only have one hand that you're loading it with. So then I'm losing like 50 pounds because I'm not using both my hands as I'm going through it. But it's a little bit of a drop off, but it's, again, I'm more focused on, am I getting tension on the muscle than am I just increasing weight? Because you can increase weight and it not actually change something for you.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know how big of a drop off. I figured that obviously there's going to be a drop off, like you said. I just didn't know how big it would be. So awesome, Sue. A ton of great information here. Obviously you hit on many different things. Before I let you go though, just I know you hinted at, and I've been seeing it on social media. You guys are having your muscle, I think series
Right.
is what you're calling it. Sounds super awesome. If you maybe want to just give a brief rundown of that, and then any where else where people can find you as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, the muscle series is an 18-week series, and we are going through every single muscle group and breaking down the art and science of each of those muscle groups. So, with that, we are going through our favorite exercises, the common mistakes that we see, common questions that we get about training that. We're talking about the origin and insertion of the muscle, what the function of the muscle is, how you use it in your daily life, because we found that a lot of times people would get into it and they might not understand how all of the muscles work. And not that you need to have this insane anatomy depth to you, but having a generalization of, okay, this is where the muscle inserts, this is where it originates, this is what I can keep in mind. It allows you to just have a lot more preciseness to when you're training. So it allows you to troubleshoot through some of those things of, okay, it makes sense that I would have my hand this way when I'm trying to train this muscle because I can use this deductive reasoning and be able to understand this muscle better. So it's really aimed at being able to teach you about the muscles without getting into the place where it becomes so confusing of learning every single ligament and muscle in your entire body, but taking those main muscle groups and really teaching more about how to train them correctly and how to get the most bang for your buck. So we started off on July 1st and with a glutes episode. And so with each muscle group, not only are Alex and I doing a deep dive on the muscle group, but then we are having an expert on for each muscle group. So we really took a lot of time going through to figure out who was going to be on it. And so we actually had another glutes episode go out with Corey Hageman, which she has done incredible things with growing her own glutes and many other women's glutes. And so then we have coming up, we have the lats episode coming out next week. And then following that, we have Eugene Teo on, and we have Bryce Calvin on. We have James Fryer. We have Dom Kuza. We have a great lineup, Cody McBroom's on. A great lineup of people, Aaron Straker, making sure I'm not forgetting anyone, but really incredible people in the space so that they can talk about what they do with clients, what they see work, and be able to have some really candid discussion about that. It started July 1st. It's going to go all the way through October. But if you want to learn more, then you can just message me on Instagram where you can find me. It's Sue Gaines, SUEGAINZ. And then our podcast is super easy. It's just the Physique Development Podcast. And you can find us on any podcast platform that you listen to podcasts. And then we also have it on YouTube. So you can watch if you prefer to do it that way. And then we also have cheat sheets with each episode, basically giving a rundown of everything we talked about. So we have a playlist of all of the exercises, how to perform it. We have, again, those breakdowns that we talked about. You're also able to see the pictures and the musculature so that you have everything set to go for yourself to take away from that. So it's like the notes already taken for you, although you might want to have a pen and paper just for your own notes, but something that we've spent the past 6 months working on to be able to release and get out there. So we're extremely excited about it. There's been a really positive response so far and just excited for the rest of it to go through. So if you're interested in learning how to become better and how to improve your training and how to get jacked, then I would definitely recommend listening to the muscle series. And it's for anyone, whether you are a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. I think anyone can take something away from it. I've had people message me of saying like they were about to retake an anatomy class and they're like, never mind, I'm going to listen to this instead. This is going to help me brush up in a much more enjoyable and applicable way to what I do on a day-to-day basis. This definitely isn't just for competitors. I just want to make that disclaimer because I know that Corey is a competitor. So it might be like, okay, now it's all for competitors. It is definitely not. It is very much so geared towards, again, our clientele, which are not competitors, to be able to really teach them. This is stuff that we also go over with our clients. And we wanted to give this away for free. We had almost every guest ask of, are we putting this behind a paywall? And the answer was no, because like I said, it's a big part of our mission to be able to educate and to be able to help with that for other people. We wanted to be able to give it away for free. And the only thing we ask is that you share it with a friend if you do listen to it. So that is my only ask. And if you're feeling generous, you can of course like rate it on Apple Podcasts, but
Always
outside
helps.
of that, just share it with a friend, spread the love so that they can grow their different body parts too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I saw the preview for it. You guys were promoting it on social media, and it looks awesome. Just looking at like the timestamps of everything, it looks like really in depth, and makes me wish I would have thought of doing something like this. But you guys obviously are going to put out great information, and definitely going to look forward to seeing all these and all the other muscle groups. So really appreciate your time. A ton of great information in here. It was great to get the other half of physique development on here, and yeah, appreciate your time, and we will chat with you next time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.